I'm honored to have the chance to tell some story. I got interested in dreaming intensely when I was about 12 years old, maybe 13. I think it was 1963. I dreamt of President Kennedy in a casket floating by in the water. I was on a dock and I saw his body, and his head was bright red. It looked like he had bright red hair. And the next day he was shot. I just was stunned that I didn't know what the dream meant when I woke up, but then later that day I found out. And so that kind of intensified my interest in dreaming. I'm a child of the 60s. I came of age and right around the beginning of the age of Aquarius. So I'm one of those aging hippies who believed for years that world peace was happening, that it was just going to emerge. We were going to learn to live in harmony and be kind to each other and be able to have fun in life. And I watched that get sabotaged. It was really heartbreaking to watch that wonderful vision kind of recede over the ensuing decades. Now, it seems to be having a resurgence now. There's a growing number of people, particularly young people, who have combined that sort of namby-pamby Pollyanna utopian vision of, oh yeah, the world's supposed to be wonderful, with working for justice, food justice and racial justice and sovereignty and dignity for women and girls, and all these overlapping aspects of what it is to be human, that, you know, it's not enough just to party. Well, it is for some people, but for me, it's not enough. And so I've spent the last 50 years washing in and out of being fascinated by consciousness, just the phenomenon of human consciousness. And what do we do with the waking world? How do we make this world a better place? How do we leave it better than we found it? And along the way, my interest in dreams and consciousness led me to Patricia Garfield's book, Creative Dreaming, which induced my first lucid dream. It was the first time I recognized that I was dreaming while I was dreaming. And I went, whoa, this is cool. So that would be around 1976 or 7. And then I discovered the work of Stephen LaBerge on lucid dreaming and learned the word or the phrase, and spent 15 years every night doing whatever I could to become lucid and to explore the lucid world. And one of the things that happened in my waking life during that period was I met some people who were Gnostics. That's like Gnostic, which is an ancient spiritual tradition that's pre-Christian. And some of the people I met were the translators of the Dead Sea Scrolls and some other ancient texts like the Nag Hammadi library. And that documented that for thousands of years, people have been experiencing directly the presence of divinity, not like an other, but like water pervading a bucket of sand, like all of this world, all is awareness manifesting as this world. And there is an opportunity to experience that pure awareness in being human. And a lot of the spiritual traditions say that that's one of the unique aspects of being human, is the ability to experience awareness in meditative states and in dream states. And so I started cultivating. Every time I could become lucid, I would ask a question like, what would it be like to experience the living gnosis? What is the living gnosis? And I had this series of dreams that I did it. I just was overwhelmed by the sacrament of life in the dream stream that carried over into my waking life. And that 15-year period cultivated in a series of dreams in which I was comforted by a group of angelic beings of love and light, who in the first encounter that I had with them surrounded me with love and comfort and kindness and wove this light cocoon around my dream body. So I was just enveloped in their love. And then from that place, they tucked me back into my physical body. And I could feel them as I awakened in my physical body. I could feel them all around me. And they've never left me. That was 30 years ago. And I just love being in communication with what I call metaphoric beings. And what I mean by that is that it's a being that can only be expressed metaphorically because they're beyond words and beyond experience. It's kind of like a finger pointing to the moon. But this notion of metaphoric beings that we encounter in the dream stream has stayed with me and has become a theme for my life. And they gave me this phrase that I didn't know what to do with. I kind of sort of knew the words. The phrase was Oneirognostic wholehearted limnosophy. to which most people respond, blah, 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 what? And I did at first. But I knew the word oneironaut because Stephen LaBerge talks about a dream traveler as an oneironaut. And I knew that Oneirognosis is the Greek god of dreaming. And I had heard a Greek song that I had danced to for decades called Oneirognosis, this dream demon. That's a love song. And I knew Gnostic because of my research into Gnosticism and the tradition of Gnosticism. So Oneirognosis was fairly clear to me as knowing that I'm dreaming when I'm dreaming and knowing myself as the dreamer. And that's something that anyone can accomplish with diligent study, as you know. The wholeheartedness was pretty straightforward. I'd been studying Taoism, and the Taoists are really big on wholeheartedness, that sort of fullness that we experience when we're dancing or when we're diving into a lake, the full investment in being alive, loving kindness and compassion, all of that wonderfulness. Limnosophy was a new word. I knew the word limnology, which is the study of inland waters. It's the study of fresh water, because I had some friends who are river geeks who were studying limnology. And I knew the word Sophia, as in philosophy or anthroposophy or theosophy, all these osophy disciplines, as tying to wisdom. Sophia is the Gnostic feminine embodiment of wisdom. She's the presence who gives life to the world. And so limnosophy had something to do with water and wisdom and water wisdom. And I inquired into it for years and basically came up with expressing wisdom through water-based metaphors. And there's a lot more to it than that, but that's where I started from. And I spent 20 years trying to find other people who would help me communicate Oneirognostic wholehearted limnosophy. And it was pretty much pushing a rock uphill. All the marketing people said, you'll never sell that. It's too complicated. Don't even bother. And nobody else got interested. And around 2015 or 16, I met a marketer in St. Louis who said, yeah, you can't do that. You need a better word. How about dreamology? And I said, well, that's kind of out there. A lot of people are talking about dreamology, but how about dreamosophy? Because that sort of bridges the Oneirognostic wholehearted limnosophy and the world of dreaming. So we picked dreamosophy, and this same marketing guy, along with many, sort of a chorus of others, had been saying, you have to write a book. And so I wrote the book, Wisdom of Dreaming, to begin to give people access to dream states that are intense and personal and spiritual and transformative. And that is how you and I met. Somebody said, you should talk to Amina because she has this lucid dreaming podcast and she's one of us. She's a kindred soul. And surely you are. So here we are.
Yeah, that's such a great story. Really inspiring how you started with your journey with a premonition dream, which is the pretty easy way to get into dreaming, to say, whoa, there's something here that's bigger than us. You're still working on lucid dreams, or what's your practice like today other than working on dreamosophy? What's your personal dreaming like?
I don't force lucidity the way I used to, because I had a whole series of dreams in the 1990s where I got a number of messages that were kind of like, hey, dude, your waking self, the person you take yourself to be when you're awake, you don't belong in the dream world. You're not even welcome here. Let it be. Let yourself be who you are and learn from that. If you're lucid, great. If you're not, great. Don't force it. Don't force yourself into this world. And a number of characters said, don't force your waking self into our world. You're a guest here. And so I took that to heart. And so I more worship my dream life. I cherish the dreams that come to me or come with awakening as I wash back into the waking world. And there's this wake of dream memories. I just wallow in that for a little while in the mornings. And my co-author of The Wisdom of Dreaming, Liz Eager, who's now Liz Eager Thackerdine. She just got married last year as one of her realized dreams as part of the Wisdom of Dreaming process. It says to welcome our dreams like long-lost, cherished friends who show up on our doorstep unannounced. And maybe they're bringing a gift, or maybe they're bringing a question, or maybe they're bringing a request. Maybe they're in trouble and they need help. And so I take that kind of approach in the confluence between the dream world and the waking world. I'm more interested in the dream world in its entirety as an alternative to the waking world. And I'm also really interested in not knowing, not like an agnostic not knowing, but like really admitting that it's a mystery. This is way bigger than I am. And I don't deserve to be in the presence of the awesome nature of consciousness, the I that I take myself to be when I'm paying bills and driving a car and being a waking person. I'm in awe of the immensity of consciousness. And there have been so many wonderful confluences. Can I tell you one example of a story that occurred for me right after I met these beings of light?
Yeah, please do.
My wife doesn't appreciate it when I tell this story because she thinks it's dehumanizing, but I do it anyway because it was profoundly meaningful for me. I was going through a really painful separation from somebody that I thought was my life partner, the person that I've been waiting for all along. I had this list of 14 qualities that I wanted in a companion. And it was esoteric stuff like Bulgarian dancing and interest in spirituality and commitment to working for social justice and environmental justice. And I had this list of 14 qualities, and she had 13 out of 14. And I forgot to put on the list loves me. So I met this woman who was like my perfect dream come true, except that try as she might, she couldn't love me in the way that I wanted to be loved. And so after 7 or 8 years, we were in the process of giving up. And one of the turning points was she met the man of her dreams and it wasn't me, which was really painful. And so I was inquiring into this question of what do I do? I mean, how I've thought this is it for me. And I was asking these beings of love and light, what do I do with this? And they're kind of, they have a really good sense of humor, but they're also not engaged in this world. They live in a realm of consciousness that has no time and no space. It's just pure consciousness. And so they're kind of puzzled by the human drama. And I would say, well, what am I going to do with this partner that I've been with for so long? And every time I asked, they said, you have to let her go. And I just was so resistant because I said, I was perfect. This is like 13 out of 14 on the list. What am I going to do? And they said, we're going to bring you somebody better. And I said, how are you going to do that? I live in a small town in Northern California, population 14,000. I already know all the women in this town who like Bulgarian dancing, and it's not a good match anywhere there. And they said, well, it would be better if you were someplace like Pasadena, but we'll work it out. Don't worry. And this conversation went on for more than a year. In fact, it went on for so long that my companion who was in the process of leaving to be with the man of her dreams, and her new beau and I would have these conversations about the transition. And so I asked the beings of love and light, what's her name? I mean, can we give her a name so that I can move towards this person you're going to bring to me? They said, call her Lady Andromeda. I said, yeah, right. I'm going to meet somebody named Andromeda. So my friend and her friend and I would have these conversations. Like when Lady Andromeda shows up, then we can all go out together and we can be friends and it'll all be wonderful. And after about 3 or 4 months of that, I said, you know what? I don't think I'm going to meet somebody named Andromeda. Let's just start calling her Lady Anne. So for another few months, we would say, well, when Lady Anne comes, this will be that. And about 3 months into that process, I got a joke on the internet from an old friend who CC'd another old friend without BCCing them. I just saw this list of email names, and one of them was this guy, Jim Hall, whose sister Anne and I used to date when I was in college. And I had loved her deeply and was sorry to see her go a different direction with her life, but I let her go, and it had been 20 plus years. And I thought, wow, I wonder how Anne Hall is doing. And so I wrote to Jim and I said, Jim, how's your sister? And he said, oh, my sister's fine. You can ask her herself. She's in Pasadena. So the rest of the story is pretty obvious. We fell in love again and met. And 9 months later, we got married, and we've been married for 26 years.
Wow, that's so inspiring that you guys took a break and found each other. That's really cute. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it was quite the confluence that just messed with my head, because I knew her name 6 months before she showed up. And throughout the decades that I had known her, her name was not Anne. Her name was Anne Hall. I don't know why. It was like a 2-syllable name. I didn't think of her as Anne. So I actually had been corresponding with her by email this is in the days of AOL. You've got mail. Every day for 2 weeks before it dawned on me, oh my gosh, this is Lady Anne. I mean, I literally didn't recognize her when she showed up for weeks. And then it just like hit me like a morning sunrise. Oh, this is what I've been told to wait for.
Wow, that's cool.
It was just delightful. So, I was already a goner for the depth and mystery of the dream world. But, it's like I've had so many times where I was just despondent and questioning what it is to be human. And I would ask for a sign. Like, please give me some kind of indication that there's more to this than this muddy mess. And the signs are just mind blowing. I mean, literally, the mind just can't accommodate the profundity of the mystery that pervades all life when we open ourselves to it. And that's what dreaming is for me. Cultivating that process of being in the presence of the mystery and being a thread in the divine tapestry that's all woven together with some cosmic, mysterious, harmonious pattern of movement and rest that we don't understand it, but we're part of it, so we don't have to understand it. It's like we're riding on the current and we don't have to worry about is there a current or not, because we're in it. We're flowing in the current. So I wax mystical there, but that's what my dream process is now. To cultivate that divine harmony and to interact with other people. In my morning meditations, I use to learn, listen, and live with love.
Beautiful. I love it. And, I love what you said about how you don't force it, getting lucid, you just go with it. That's something so powerful, because then you can really, like you've been doing, get the messages from the dream, really understand what it's trying to tell you. Because sometimes, when we're trying to be lucid, we get frustrated. And I see people like they want to get lucid so bad that they forget about all of their regular dreams. And we're supposed to cherish those. Like, that's the point,
Yes.
and then you're lucid, you exert your ego on the dream and you do whatever you want, whatever makes you feel good. And then you kind of don't, you forget about the narrative of the dream instead of observing. And it's cool. So many people I talk to, myself included, have had experiences where the dream characters will say, hey, you're not supposed to be here. This is not like a human space or whatever. And so now when I'm lucid, I try to, I'm kind of like you. I kind of let it happen spontaneously. Sometimes I'll do, a little method, but for the most part, when I'm lucid, I just kind of observe and I take it in and I try to see what the dream is trying to show me, and I found that I get the most out of that.
Yeah. It's like I'm in Bulgaria this week to experience the ancient tradition of Bulgarian dancing. There are dance patterns in Bulgaria that are community dances that are, we know, at least 5,000 years old. We know the song, the music, the dance is 5,000 years old or more. And I'm in awe of that. And I'm not like running out trying to lead the dancing. I'm just grateful to be in the presence of this ancient tradition. And if somebody invites me into the dance, I will join. But I try not to interfere. There's kind of an anthropological principle about that. Although most cultures welcome strangers and friends. There's a great story of Bronislaw Malinowski, the anthropologist, wrote about the Trobriand Islanders in the South Pacific, where he was observing their rain dance one year and he was worried. They invited him to join the dance. And he said, oh, no, I don't want to interfere with your ritual. I don't want to disrupt it. And they said, oh, no, this year we're doing rain dance with anthropologists. Please, you're welcome. You're supposed to be here. So if there's an invitation, then I join in.
Nice. Yeah, that's a pretty good metaphor. It really makes sense too.
The other thing that's really interesting to me right now is how do we get the word out? I once asked Stephen LaBerge, what's your indicator for success with your work in lucid dreaming? And this is maybe 1991. And he said, well, I think if it was taught as part of the elementary school curriculum, that would count. I thought, wow, now that's a vision that's worth living for. And so that's not my particular goal, but I'm really interested in taking the experience of dreaming and the understanding of how profound dreaming can be to people who don't know about it.
I love that. Yeah. It is one of my goals. I really love children, and I've always been fascinated about the fact of like teaching this young. Cool.
Yeah, well, it's so perfect for overcoming nightmares. Because when I was a child, my parents said, oh, it's just a dream. Here, we'll turn on the light. There's no monsters in that closet. No, wait. You just took away the richness of my dream life.
I know, right?
And so I got sort of guided like 10 years ago to start teaching dreaming in prisons to people who are incarcerated. and to teach a course called How to Be Free in Your Dreams. Because I imagined, what would it be like to be locked in a cell inside prison walls during the day and then to be able to get out at night? And so that's, it's one of my pet projects, is to introduce dream cultivation. And one of the reasons I'm so excited about you and your work is that I would love to have lucidity integrated into how to be free in your dreams, that we don't just teach people how to cultivate their dream lives, but actively teach them how to be lucid and how to use the process to distinguish between what dream and not in waking life. But we want to make a point of saying, hey, this is a tool for you to learn pro-social behavior, how to learn to be a cultivator of your role in the community as someone who bears fruit that is nourishing to the community. And all of the people that we have talked to get that. We've had, it's not thousands yet. I think it's hundreds of people have gone through our How to Be Free in Your Dreams course in 6 prisons around the country, and prisons and jails. And all of them are eager to learn how to be better contributing citizens in their community when they get out. So that's just, one of this, it's not a sideline, it's a major emphasis of my work with dreaming, is to take that out there, but then also to go beyond the prison system to how do we create a new profession? As you know, I'm calling it Dream Ambassador, of people who are ambassadors from the dream world to the waking world, who can teach people how to deepen their relationship with their own dream lives. And I kind of got the idea off a Skype signature, a guy that I was working with in India a few years ago, whose byline on his Skype signature was, "I'm from the future." I thought, what an interesting concept. You're here as a representative of my future. What would it be like if we had somebody who's here as a representative of your dream life? In the same way that an ambassador takes a culture of origin of the dream ambassador into a new community. When an ambassador from Zimbabwe comes to the United States, their role is to foster understanding and cooperation between the nations so that Americans learn more about Zambia or wherever it is that ambassador is from. And when we send an ambassador from the United States to another country, that's part of their role, is to establish a presence of the United States in that culture. So what would it be like if we had a profession of dream ambassadors whose role is to establish the prominence and the value of dreaming in modern life?
Amazing. Yeah, I've never resonated with a job title more, because trust me, I've had a lot of jobs and none of them fit like that.
Well, that's the sort of the leading edge of dreamosophy right now, is what are the criteria that are required to be a dream ambassador? If we took dentistry as an example of a profession that's been created within the last 150 years, you have to go to dental school and learn a lot about teeth and mouth health and all of that stuff to be certified as a dentist. And it is self-accrediting. Dentists accredit each other. And the same is true with prisons. Prisons are accredited. Most prisons and jails are accredited, but it's a self-accrediting elite. It's because who knows better what criteria are required than people who are doing what's being certified. So we're establishing criteria. Obviously, the first step for us, for Dreamosophy, our basic introduction is called the wisdom of dreaming. And so dream ambassadors get to experience the wisdom of dreaming process that takes place over 18 dreams. And we present 5 opportunities that are aspects of the dream world that are not meant to be an exhaustive list, but just a place to start cultivating one's relationship with the dream world. And then, some basic books. I'm sure you could add some books to the list, and some movies and videos, and the ability to talk about dreaming. To how do you answer the question, I had the weirdest dream last night, maybe you can tell me what it means? Or how do you answer the question, I don't dream? What do you say to that? Or I don't sleep enough to dream. How do I get a better night's sleep? All these basic questions. Or people who've never heard of lucid dreaming. What does it mean to be lucid? What is oneirognosis? Fun little another digression there. Between 1993 and 2013, I was intending to write the book Oneirognosis. And every few months I would check out on the internet to see if anybody was using the word. And it popped up a couple times in poetry, but not really commonly. And then I think it was about 2013, this book popped up, Oneirognosis. And it's written by Stephen Barnwell. And I looked into it and I looked into him, and it's the book that I would have written. It's like somebody else did it for me. This is really cool. Now I don't have to write the book. This is one of those great confluences. So that's a required reading for Dream Ambassadors is they have to read the book Oneirognosis.
I love it. Yeah, I can think of so many things that would be considered criteria. And I think it's about, being able to understand it so well that you can show people how to understand it for themselves. Because it's not about telling people like, oh, this is how you do it, because it's such a personal thing. It's about showing people how to approach it for themselves and understand themselves.
Yeah, that's beautifully said, because what we're really talking about here is it's not about how much I know. It's about how much can I communicate to you so that you know it and you understand it. And that's really the essence of being a Dream Ambassador. It's not like being a show off or a broadcast tower to disseminate how much I know. I mean, that's a part of it. But the real cultivation happens in the listener. And how does what I'm saying to them impact them? Does their relationship with their dream life deepen? Does it become richer? Does it become more meaningful to them as a result of the interactions we have? And that's a difficult thing to gauge. There's an awful lot of know-it-alls running around who don't do a good job of communicating how much they know. They're interesting, not interested. Yeah, I hope that you and I can have more conversations about that whole criteria curriculum aspect of beginning to certify Dream Ambassadors, because I don't run across somebody like you every day who already knows all the basic material.
Yeah, I've actually because I've thought about doing a course, and just for fun, I've already written out a whole outline of all the important things that I would teach somebody, starting from the basics to the hypnagogia and the liminal dreaming, which I know you're into, down to the lucid dreaming, to the regular dreams, to the interpreting. There's so much into it. There's so many different things. What really fascinates me that I want to ask you a little bit about is your work you're doing in prisons, because I think that is so powerful, because it's a form of therapy, and it's a form of being able to see beyond your physical environment, which we know that the prison system is just so corrupt and so messed up. Can you tell me a little bit about what that work is like some results you're seeing, or how exactly you approach that?
Yeah, we're not doing a good enough job of evaluating results because prison staffs are overwhelmed these days. It's not exactly anybody's dream job. And so most of the prisons in the country are understaffed, and the staff that they have are overworked. I've talked to a lot of wardens who are down to 50% of their allocated staffing. So if they're supposed to have 300 people on staff, they have 150. Wow. And the turnover rate is big. It's one of the highest professions for suicide in the country. And so taking care of prison employees should be right up there with respecting our veterans and our other law enforcement officers, because the profession of correctional officer actually is a profession. The public perception of prison guard is wrong, because they are trained to deal with health issues and mental health issues and emergency situations and nutrition and so much more than just sitting in a guard tower with a gun. And so that's the first thing that I came to understand about the corrections community generally. And there I'm including jails, prisons, juvenile facilities, community placement facilities, parole and probation programs. It's really a large community of people. We have 1.5 million people, depending on how you count. It could be as high as 2 million people who are what are called justice involved. They're either incarcerated or on probation or parole, somehow in the custody of the correction system in this country. It's the largest incarcerated population in the world, both in terms of numbers and a percentage of the population. It's more than China, more than Russia, more than any other supposedly dictatorial nation in the world. The United States is way on the top of the list. And so when we're spending more money on correctional facilities than we are in community colleges, something's out of balance. That's why I said, okay, I'm going to see what we can do to make this better. And I was also challenged by a horseshoer in Colorado. I was working with Walmart on creating green jobs because Walmart wanted to have all the jobs at Walmart be green jobs. They're environmentally responsible. We were slowly working up to talking with that about employee benefits and how you treat your employees. But That's another conversation. But this horseshoer in Colorado said, you think green jobs are the answer to what the problems in the economy are, but there's one population that's not going to get green jobs, and that's people who've been in jail or have been in prison. Because once they have a criminal record, they're not going to get, they're challenged to get any job, let alone a green job. And so he said, if you really care about green jobs, what you would do is start a green jobs training program and do it inside prisons and jails. And that was like 2009 or 2008. And so I spent 2 years creating a jobs training program. It was a really good program. And it was going to cost $60,000 for the first cohort of 20 or 25 people to be trained in how to install solar panels or how to do insulation or how to fix wind turbines, any aspect of the green economy so that people can get a certificate that would be accredited by a profession that they could help them get a job when they get out. We could not get it funded. But one of the things that happened was I was asked to go to Chicago to meet with an advisory board for this cool little chemical company in Chicago called Portion Pack. They make eco-friendly janitorial chemicals, which they package in little plastic pouches that are color-coded and multilingual to make it easy for janitorial staff to mix non-toxic cleaning compounds. And of course, that's very popular with prisons. And they had an advisory board, their correctional advisory board. There was a bunch of retired wardens from places like Kentucky and Louisiana and Alabama and North Carolina who were advising them on how to offer these Correct Pack products to the corrections community. And they asked me to come in and talk to this advisory board. It's a small group, like 8 people or something, about my green jobs training program and see if they had any ideas for how to get it funded. And I had this long presentation that had 72 slides about climate change and environmental efficiency and saving water and saving energy and how to save money and how to be more efficient. And I got to the 3rd or 4th slide in my presentation, and the slide said, the science of climate change is uncertain. Nobody really knows what's happening. And this guy from Louisiana sat forward and he said, "Boy, could you say that again?" And I said, "Sure. The science of climate change is uncertain. We don't really know what's happening." And he said, "Damn, boy, that's the first time I ever heard a greenie admit that." And the guy who had brought me in literally kicked me under the table and he whispered to me, "Shut up, close your laptop, don't say another word." And I said, "But I still have 69 slides to go." He said, "Just shut up, don't say anything else." So I did. I closed my laptop and I stopped talking. And these guys started talking among each other. And basically what they said was, "I think all this green shit's a bunch of hooey, but I think there's money on the table here and we ought to get some of it." And come up into that conversation was this guy from Louisiana. After about 20 or 30 minutes of discussion, sat forward again. He said, "Boy," they always call me boy. I'm their pet greenie. And he said, "Could you write us a charter?" I said, "What kind of a charter?" And the guy from Kentucky chimed in and he said, "Well, a document to set up a committee. We want to set up a committee for the American Correctional Association, and we need a charter that tells us how to save money from doing all this green shit. And you can't talk about Al Gore, and you can't talk about climate change or global warming. You can't cite examples from California, Oregon, or Colorado, but, just tell us how to save money." So I said, "Okay." So on the plane back, basically on the back of an envelope, I wrote him a 1.5-page charter for an advisory committee for the American Correctional Association. And they changed like 5 words and took it to the American Correctional Association, got it adopted. They created this committee. I called it the Clean and Green Committee. And it was the largest committee that the American Correctional Association had and still is for the last 10 years. And in 2011, at the first meeting of the committee, I finally got to do my 72-slide slideshow. They were sat forward at the end of the committee and they said, "Boy," and I ducked. I was like, "Here we go." They said, "Could you write us a standard?" What do you mean? What kind of standard? "Well, something for our auditors to use when they go into a prison to find out whether there's green practices happening and how do they save money and what do the auditors look for to show that they're actually doing it." I said, "Well, that sounds interesting. I can do that." So I wrote them a charter and they got it adopted by the American Correctional Association. It took a year, but the people who were watching were stunned. They said, "This should have taken you between 5 and 10 years. How did you get it done in a year?" I said, I didn't do anything. I just wrote it and I gave it to these guys who were both past presidents and retired statewide commissioners. And they took it to the American Correctional Association, got it adopted. And then after that year, it came to me again. Could you write us a policy? I said, well, we just got a standard adopted. What do you mean, a policy? Well, we got the practices down now, but we need a value statement that defines the position of the American Correctional Association as supporting all this green shit. I said, okay. So we wrote a policy statement and the American Correctional Association adopted it. It talks about recycling and composting and energy efficiency and water efficiency and transportation. I wrote a number of articles during that period about greening America's prisons. And we came up with these 7 steps to sustainable corrections. So out of that, the National Institute of Justice came to me and said, can you help us write a manual on greening America's prisons? So I did. It's like 85 pages long, and they published it. The National Institute of Justice published it, and it's been downloaded over 10,000 times. And that kind of got me started in the corrections field. And out of doing that work, I realized that it's not as bad as you think it is. Most prisons and jails are basically boring. Nothing is happening. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just day-to-day boredom. And most corrections staff, the people who work in the prisons and jails, are dedicated, sincere, kind-hearted professionals who are trying to protect the general public from people who, in some cases, are dangerous. And jails are really dangerous because those are filled with people who have not been sentenced yet. And so they're all thrown in together. And you could have murderers and rapists next to burglars and bicycle thieves and everything in between. And the people who are on staff have to maintain order within that population. It turns out when the staff is taken care of, they take care of the people who are in their custody. And when people are treated with respect, by and large, they respond with kindness and cooperation. And so that's largely what's going on in prisons and jails in the United States is people are being taken care of. They get medical care, they get dental care, they get eye care, they get 3 meals a day, they get a place to sleep, they get 24-hour security, they have recreational facilities, libraries. It's a safety net for a segment of the population that admittedly is the victims of racism and socioeconomic discrimination and a huge disproportionate bias against people of color, particularly Black people, descendants of slaves. There's a lot of bias inherent in the system, but on the day-to-day operations basis, it's pretty good-hearted by and large across the boards. So that was the environment that I was coming out of when I wrote the book Wisdom of Dreaming, was working on green prisons. And so because I knew some wardens from the American Correctional Association, I went to them and I said, I wrote this book and it starts out with how to be free in your dreams. Would you be willing to let me offer these courses in your facility? And they all said, yeah, sure. Just don't get any on the walls. No, they didn't say that. They said, sure, give it a try. And I said, we want to track this. We want to track inmate on inmate violence. We want to track inmate on staff violence. We want to track administrative write-ups to see, in terms of corrections criteria, what's the impact it's having on the population. But then we'd also like to evaluate, are they getting a better night's sleep? Are they feeling less stress? Are they remembering their dreams? Do they feel like they're moving towards pro-social behavior as a result of this? So we started trying to track all that. We were in 6 prisons in 4 states, prisons and jails, mostly prisons. And then the pandemic hit. And who knew that it would be so hard to get into prison? I mean, you can't get into a prison now. I mean, you, as a volunteer or a visitor, it's really hard to get into prisons now because they're terrified. They were breeding grounds. They're like cruise ships. One of the first that got in trouble was San Quentin out in California. They had a busload of guys came in from another prison and they were untested and unmasked, and like 115 people died. And so they're understaffed and they're underfunded. They're terrified about the pandemic. So there's not a lot going on right now. We're just now starting up. We're going to be starting this fall a series of programs at the largest men's prison in Ohio. And there are 2 other prisons in Ohio that are starting up their programs again. And we're reaching out. We have somebody this week who's at the American Correctional Association representing Dreamosophy, inviting other facilities to set up programs, but we're in our infancy in terms of having evidence-based data to be able to answer the insightful questions that you asked about what kind of impact is this having on people. We have a lot of anecdotal information. We have some video interviews where people are saying, out of this program, I realized that the common denominator in all this stuff I'm using is that I'm dealing with is me. And for the first time, I've realized that I am the problem. It's not somebody else. I'm not a victim here. Somebody's not doing things to me. I am the key to my own future. I can dream up a life worth living. So that's just warms my heart when I see and hear a guy who's been in prison for 10 years, who's got maybe another 5 or 10 years to go before the possibility of parole, say something like that. And those are the people who are going to then take advantage of the community college programs and the college degree programs and the literacy programs and the skill development programs that are available in most prisons in the United States. Jails are another question. They're doing well just to get people detox, because people spend an average of 30 to 90 days in jail at most. Although with the pandemic, though, that's tended to be a lot longer, but they don't have much time to do much more than get people off alcohol and drugs and get them sobered up to be able to go to trial. And then they get either released or shipped off to the prison system. And so we don't have a lot going on in jails. We would love to implement a process of dream stream journaling as part of the intake procedure for jails. Before the pandemic, we were in conversation with the Baton Rouge County Jail in Louisiana and the Lafayette County Jail in Louisiana. Well, those are places you do not want to end up in jail. I said it's not as bad as you think it is. Some places it is. Lafayette, yeah. Well, I don't want to say anything bad on the air, but they have challenges. They're doing their best to deal with. But they were interested in passing out dream journals when people get admitted to the jail. And one of the reasons they wanted to do it was because they see people over and over again. It's a revolving door. So when most of the people that get out of jail, they know that they're going to be back within 90 days. So if they can start their dream journal when they go through intake, then when they come back, they can pick up where they left off. And the idea is to end that revolving door so that people get the skills and the inspiration needed to be able to stay out. And there's 6,000 prisons and jails in the United States. So at 6, we are at 0.1% market penetration. So if we could get into 600, we would be happy. We would, I think at that point, we'd be making a difference and people would start doing it on their own. There'd be other people doing similar things. Like when the book on Oneirognosis showed up and I didn't have to write it, other people will pop up with similar programs, and that's just fine. I'm not into the intellectual property culture.
Yeah, I love that. You just want to spread the knowledge, and whoever else joins, that's the goal. I like that, and honestly, anecdotal evidence I like that as well, especially with these things that are so new, like dreams and infiltrating something so big like that. I think even if you can just help 1 or 2 people in 6 prisons, like you're already making a difference. So I'm already pretty impressed by that. So for those people listening, why don't we talk a little bit about Dreamosophy, how it works, how people can sign up?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. We're experimenting with a new platform called Challenge that is a 7-day or 4-week or 5-week online self-directed process that is a challenge. We issue invitations for people to start keeping a dream journal and getting a better night's sleep and learning how to remember their dreams. And then, as I mentioned, our entry gateway to the Garden of Dreams is the Wisdom of Dreaming process, which takes place over 18 dreams. And it's done at 3 levels. The first level is just noticing that you're dreaming, getting a better night's sleep, starting to remember dreams and write them down. And we invite people to notice 5 specific opportunities: how to be free in your dreams, how to feel good in your dreams, how to speak up in your dreams, how to make friends in your dreams, and lastly, how to understand and realize dreams. And we carry those 5 opportunities through each of the 3 levels. The second level is going beyond noticing to begin to identify the specific opportunities by gauging and graphing how intensely are you engaged with these different aspects. And we use metaphors. So for how to be free, our metaphor is movement, activity. It's like the old definition of liberty. When you had shore leave and you were at your liberty, you were free to move around. You didn't have to be on the ship. So in the dream world, we look at the metaphor of activities. And for each of the opportunities, we have a metaphor that we, at level 2, we start to graph and gauge how intensely are you experiencing this metaphor. Then at level 3, we explore confluence. That's the confluence between waking life and dream life. So are these opportunities showing up in your waking life, and how? And are you satisfied? And at level 3, we start to ask the question, what would it be like if? What would be like if you were feeling your feelings more intensely or less intensely? And we don't have a bias, like you're not supposed to be the most intense in every area. Sometimes it's helpful to be less intense. And so we explore that and cultivate confluence between waking life and dream life, all moving towards actualizing, realizing your fondest dreams for the future, discriminating and identifying between waking life and dream life. What are the dreams that belong in the dream world? You don't want them in the waking world. And what are the dreams that are your fondest dreams, that are pro-social and worthwhile, that you would like to realize? And we have sort of a graduate level on understanding and realize dreams that comes out of my background as a fundraiser of helping people realize worthwhile dreams, both for nonprofit activities and for-profit businesses and personal and professional lives, that is based on 3 questions. What's the dream? So this is specifically designed for people who have dreams to live for that are bigger than themselves, that are taking on projects and businesses and opportunities that they don't know how to accomplish it on their own. So we work with people, for example, who are working to transform the prison system, or who are starting a chain of restaurants, or whatever the dream is that you're living for that's bigger than yourself. This came out of my master's thesis in human development in 1983, which I titled my thesis Dreams for the Future. And I studied how people's lives change when they have a dream to live for that's bigger than themselves. And so that's sort of the advanced level of dreamosophy, is getting into the first question is, what's the dream? The second question is, who am I? What's my role in all of this? Am I the founder? Am I an employee? Am I a resource person? Am I a coach or a consultant? What's my role, and what's my place on the great mandala, as it were? And then lastly, how am I feeling? Because this is something that's very neglected, particularly in business. What's the mood of the enterprise? When you have a dream to live for, there are some organizations that are just the best places to work for. Portion Pack in Chicago that I mentioned earlier, that it manufactures eco-friendly janitorial chemicals. They've been recognized as one of the 100 best small companies to work for in America. People that are working there have been working for them for 17, 20, 25 years because they love working there. Cliff Bar that makes Cliff Bars and all those protein bars that are so well distributed. It's a fabulous place to work. I've been in their headquarters and people love coming to work. They have exercise rooms and massage rooms, and you can bring your laundry to work and do it while you're working. And they have a free cafeteria, and they don't have goals. They have aspirations. So you're not like somebody's holding a stick over you saying, you have to achieve your goals or you're going to get a negative evaluation. They have agreed on what our aspirations are as a company, and they open their hearts and move towards their aspirations. So this whole question of how am I feeling? What's the mood of the enterprise is a really important part of realizing dreams, because if it's not satisfying and fulfilling, why are we doing it? Sometimes it's necessary, but really, you can have it all. You can have it be wonderful while you're realizing a worthwhile dream and while you have a clear role that works for you. So that's a little bit about Dreamosophy. And we have a website, dreamosophy.com. It's DREAM, the word dream, and osophy, like philosophy. It rhymes with philosophy, OSOPHY, or .org or .net. They all go to us. And on that web page, there's an opportunity to enter the dream stream. So right now we're inviting people to come enter our challenges to have level 1, level 2, and then move on to level 3 of the challenges that take place over 7 days or 35 days or longer, depending on how we set it up. And that's where Dreamosophy is at right now. We're developing other opportunities to engage with dream ambassadors on a personal basis, to have a dream equivalent of personal and professional life coaching that has to do with cultivating your own dream stream and engaging in the process of realizing your own dreams on an individual basis. We have some more books in the offing that will be announced soon. But we really want it to be easy and fun. So we're starting with these challenges as a way that you can entrance to the dream stream for fun and learn how to remember your dreams and how to get a better night's sleep and how to notice the 5 dream opportunities in a week. And that's a way for people to find out if this is something that's interesting and satisfying for you.
Love it. Amazing. Yeah, I've been in the dream stream now. I did the first week and I really like it. I've been interacting with people. It really makes such a difference for like how connected you are with your dreams when you find a community of people that has the same interests and will share and comment on your dreams and tell you what they think and stuff like that. And I love how it's not just about dreams, it's about like, how was your day? Tell me something that made you happy today. Like, it's just a really nice community. So I'm loving it so far.
Yeah, we have a Garden of Delights. I've kind of adapted the challenge format. The people who created the challenge platform are really into wins and building metaphors. And we sort of adapted those instead of the community wall that's like a graffiti wall, we have the Garden of Delights. And instead of another community wall, we have Dream Stream where people can post their dreams. And instead of the coach's corner, it's the guidance garden. We really like garden metaphors in Dreamosophy. And so I'm glad you're enjoying it. It's a wonderful opportunity and it's available to anyone for free. People can still get into the level 1 challenge by going to dreamosophy.com. It's designed to be done in 7 minutes a day.
Any last messages you have or like a special like dream that really stuck out to you or something to leave the listeners with that really resonates with you lately? It can be anything.
Yeah. So the thought that just came up as you were saying that is to share a dream that was part of my lucid dreaming cultivation process. I have a recurring theme of being chased, being pursued. And people tell me that that's my destiny that's pursuing me. But whatever it is, it's since childhood, I've had these pursuit dreams and they've changed over the years as I learned to become lucid. But one of the times that I did that, I decided that being chased is a great trigger for lucidity. Like if I'm being chased, I should ask if I'm dreaming because I don't often get chased in my waking life. So I said, okay, the next time I'm getting chased, I'm going to ask if I'm dreaming. And then I'm going to become lucid and I'm going to ask a question. And so I was getting chased down an alley by these dangerous people and I was scared. And I said, okay, I think this is probably a dream. If this is a dream, I'm going to open the first door I come to and it's going to be a psychiatrist's office. And I'm going to ask the question, what is next for me in my development? So I ran down this dark alley and I grabbed a doorknob and opened it and walked in and the door closed behind me and I was in an office and it looked like a therapist's office, couch and soft lighting and books on the wall. And so I laid down on the couch. It was like a psychiatrist's couch. And Sigmund Freud walked in with his notepad and his pipe and his little goatee beard. And he said, what can I do for you? And I said, I'd like to know what's next for me in my development. And he said, you worry too much about whether or not people like you. And I woke up. So the message I'd like to leave people with is don't worry about whether or not people like you. Worry about whether or not you're satisfied with who you're being and reach for the stars. Swing out, have your life be a dream come true. And it starts with keeping a dream journal and cultivating your own heartfelt longings to have your life be a dream come true.
I love that. I needed to hear it as well. I think that's important because once you release that anxiety of being judged, you can really tap into yourself and do whatever it is you want to do, whatever it is that your purpose is. I love it.
Perfectly stated. Thank you so much for this privilege. Thank you for being who you are.